Well, good afternoon. I actually am rushing to get this done. I mean, I just wrote the blurb like less than 10 minutes ago. I already had the title, but I didn't have the blurb. The title is Indifference is Not Love. Is Creator indifferent? I've been reading the fifth interview with Dr. Neruda on the Wingmakers site a little at a time. As I've said before, this material fascinated me from the time several years ago when I first discovered it. This particular interview, though it was recorded in 1998, has only recently been released. He talks about our ancient history, how we became a planet of slaves when the original creation was less dense and more connected to Source. Gods, specifically Anu, developed a plan of control. He was an Anunnaki. They and ETs from Sirius messed with our DNA, limiting us in many ways. What bothers me most about this story is that he says Creator stood by and allowed this to happen, wanting to see how creation would develop. It's almost as if Creator was indifferent. To me, that would not signify a loving Creator at all. On the contrary, it would imply a level of sadism that is hard for me to comprehend. And I include the Wingmakers link with the interviews, and it's the fifth interview. There were 4 interviews released some years ago, and I think I saw them in the early 21st century. But in any case, this is a new one that was released. And as I said, the thing that bothers me the most, and I've been bothered by this over and over and over again throughout my life, as I've asked God, why do you allow suffering, God? Why? When I mean, I'm just a creature. And suffering for me is unexplainable and unacceptable. Especially suffering when people are trying to do right and the very system itself is unjust, and not only unjust but criminal in its nature. Now, I know that there are a lot of people in the world that look at the world and they don't have the problems that a big portion of the human race has. Those in the United States that are not having their homes trying to be stolen from the banks, that just sort of play the game according to the system, and they think that everything is good. You know, they have a good life. They accept the fact that there's limited freedom, and as long as they're not being bothered, as long as their home's not being threatened, as long as their rights are not being visibly violated, as long as everything is going pretty well, they're satisfied with the status quo. I'm not. Not only do I see and have I seen things since 2005 where laws are being broken by the very courts that are supposed to be upholding the law, where truth is pushed down and rejected, where our media is instructed to lie, and anybody that stands up and becomes a whistleblower and tells the truth usually has a pretty high price to pay, because most people are in denial or apathetic or just simply avoid things they don't like because of the programming of the mind to make us willing to accept a lot of bad things as long as it doesn't hit us too hard. So it's almost as if we're going to wake up, we're inviting cataclysm and catastrophes to strike our lives personally and to affect us on a broader scale. To me, this is so sad. But the sad part is that it depicts a creator that chooses to be powerless. I know we think of God as being omnipotent and all-powerful. Well, if I had all the power in the world, I would not allow a system to have gotten to the place where our system is. Now, granted, people are waking up because it's this bad, but most still sleep. And as long as most still sleep, those who wake up put themselves in jeopardy by speaking out. It shouldn't be that way. There shouldn't be such a high cost for telling the truth. There shouldn't be such a high cost for shaking the apple cart, so to speak, and rocking the boat. In fact, these people that do that should be honored, not rejected. They should be held in high esteem, not penalized. And sometimes the penalty is the death penalty. For what? For telling the truth? For telling people that we're living on a prison planet? And people don't even want to see that. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to know it. And where is God in all of this? All of my life, especially in the 21st century, especially when I realized after 9/11 that the government was a criminal operation, that it was run by people who were psychopathic, run by bankers, for corporations, for money. And I looked for, and people came to me because I started doing videos. They came to me and said, will you join our group? Rusa was the first one, and OPPT they didn't contact me. Nobody contacted me from OPPT. There was nothing to join. But Swiss Indo, there was something to join, and then the Dragon family. And in each instance, I was looking to bond with people who were like me, visionaries, who were like me, not afraid to see the world for what it is and recognize that there's something that we need to do about it. Unlike the Creator, who seemed willing to just let it take its own course. And people say the Dragon family and the ancient rulers are very patient, and that God is very patient. And I suppose this is a good thing. But this Anu that Dr. Neruda talks about is actually Allah, Jehovah. It's the God of the Christians and the Jews and the Muslims. It's the same God who wants control, who co-opted the Christian message of Jesus, whom he says Jesus was actually a way shower, did not say that he didn't exist like some people do, that he was not a historic figure. No, on the contrary, he portrays Jesus as someone that came to help right things, but it was taken over by the establishment, by the empire, by those that wanted to continue the control of humanity and the enslavement of humanity. Now, as I looked at these various organizations and these various things that came along, the OPPT to me was the best thing that ever came along, because it, using the laws of the commercial code, it foreclosed on the structure, basically, of our world. It foreclosed on the corporate structure for violations of natural law, for conducting crimes against humanity, and for enslaving a people, the human race, on a planet. It told it like it was. And Swiss Indo brought together some amazing visionaries who saw what needed to be done and discussed steps to build a bridge to make the world better, beginning with release of funding that would enable actual enforcement and enable actual creation of alternatives that people could freely choose. And the Dragon family contacted me, and the ambassador many times has admitted to me that the Dragon family for years has been funding everything that's been funded. They've been the ones provide, not the Illuminati, not the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the Illuminati, they're just simply handlers. They're just simply keepers. But the family has always controlled the wealth. And they have, like the Creator, allowed the injustices. Maybe they were ignorant of them. Certainly they didn't know what they know now. They didn't have available to them what is available to them now. They didn't have the ambassador, a man of vision that I respect a lot. They didn't have the Red Dragon, whom I also respect, though I still think that his Christianity is very fundamental in its nature and very separatist. And I don't go along. That's one of the things about the Wingmakers things. God is about inclusion. Nothing left out. And so I have to examine my own beliefs and my own structure, because I still think that there are those that need to be curtailed, that need to be limited, because they try to, they overrun the free will of others. They abuse rank and privilege and wealth to their benefit and to everyone else's detriment. And this is something that is very hard for me to comprehend. But I'm still thinking separate, separate, separate. They are not us. There's still this small percentage, this 1% or less of the population that thinks it's got the right to dominate and control everybody else. And I don't see that. I mean, I want to see the planet wake up. When I say the planet, I mean its human population especially, because it's not the animal kingdom or the plant kingdom that's causing the problems. It's the human kingdom and perhaps some malevolent extraterrestrials that have manipulated our DNA and limited us and brought us from a time when we were less dense and more connected to a time that feeling the connection is a challenge. Somebody has to actually work at meditation and finding that center point within themselves. It doesn't come naturally for people. What seems to come naturally is the brainwashing, the programming, and people just do what they're told. I watched a video earlier today. Let me just see if I can scroll down. Well, there's another good video. The German reporter who tells the truth that all the news is fake. Excellent thing. It's on my Facebook wall. But how to herd your tax cattle. Beautifully done video. Beautifully done video. I wish I could remember the man's name right offhand. I've watched many of his videos. He does an excellent job of creating videos, and this one was probably one of his best that I ever saw. How to herd your tax cattle. It's on YouTube. You can go listen to that. But it talks about the programming. It talks about how easily people follow orders and how people respect a uniform and will do what someone in uniform tells them, even if it doesn't make sense, because we are that programmed, that apathetic, that asleep. But we've been programmed to be asleep. And I'm not one to throw rocks at the people that are obviously scapegoats for everything that goes on in the world, when it's the people that are at the top that are supposedly in the know that commit the crimes. And a lot of the so-called crime that people commit on the lower echelons of human society happens because the system forces that almost for survival. And it bothers me. These things trouble my soul. Trouble my soul, because I want a God who takes action, because love does not sit idly by and allow suffering. Not as I see it. I cannot, in my consciousness, if I saw somebody being hurt right in front of me, I would intervene even at the risk of my own life. I will not, however, when like in court, I will not put myself up for a sacrifice and let them and volunteer to be a sacrificial lamb. I'm not going to play that role again. I want my freedom, and I want more freedom, not less, not limited, but more. And I want to be supported by my Creator, whatever that means, however that manifests. I want the changes to happen in me that will bring about the changes for the whole of my brothers and sisters, including the Illuminati, including the ETs that have been malevolent, if they can be forgiven, if they can be redeemed, if they can remit and surrender to higher principles, I'm all in favor of it. I'm not in favor of casting anybody out. I'm not in favor of making anybody expendable. Because to me, there's only life in a single web of life. And it's all God. It's all, creation is all part of the Creator. But the Creator, to me, if the Creator is really love, the Creator cannot be indifferent, cannot be neutral. Because love, to me, is not indifferent and not neutral. Maybe you disagree with me. And maybe you think it's okay that God just simply allows creation to go on as it has been proceeding. I think it's time for a change. I think, and I call on the consciousness of the creation that I call Creator or God to intervene on behalf of creation, to lift creation up, and to bring the Jubilee, the forgiveness of debt, the forgiveness of sins, and the reconciliation of all things. This is what is written in my heart. It's the kingdom that I long for. Swiss Indo people called it the kingdom of God, sky, earth. I like that. I like that. And I wish people would stop fighting each other and stop holding themselves up as if they're the only important one and start humbling ourselves and working together to make a world that works for everyone. That's what I want. And that's what I would hope that the Creator of all things also wants. Because if the Creator doesn't want it, to me, it'll never happen. And we are part of that Creator. We are the part of creation that's made in the Creator's image, that has the ability to create. What are we going to create? Let's create a world that works, where there is no more injustice, a world based on truth, a world based on love and compassion and forgiveness and justice and mercy. Thank you for listening. Namaste.